y'all, this is Marley K. Hope y'all are well. I want to share with you something that I read at the Harvard Business Review. There's also an article that I want to share that came out earlier last year from Forbes, and it's about the diversity, equity, inclusion. And this article came out in September. The other article came out in, I want to say June or July of 2023. But it was after the affirmative action rulings and the question about diversity and inclusion, where things go. And the reason that I want to talk about this is because one of the little girls, and I hate to say young little girls, but she's a young lady now. But when she was little, I used to keep her. And I kept her for a long time because of some situations that were going on with her parents. So I kept her for a couple of years. And she's all grown up now. She went to school. She got a master's degree. And she's working in, she's working at a college, a white Christian college. And she's talking about working under a white male in athletics. Excuse me. I'm sorry, who doesn't really care for her. The students like her, but the coach doesn't. And she's understanding that she's a diversity hire. In fact, she was told she was a diversity hire. And they just gave her a write-up here not too long ago. And so, we were just having a conversation about it at a birthday brunch over the weekend. And so I was just explaining to her how affirmative action was over now. That a lot of the hires and activities that were going along with diversity and inclusion are dead. Companies are not going to invest in it. People who were making money off of it are not going to make money off of it anymore. It's going away. And as I've been talking about since 2016, we are like living the end of the Reconstruction era. It's like a slow roll back to slavery. A lot of people don't want to hear that. A lot of people don't believe that, but it is true. We are headed back to a time where a lot of us are not going to have any rights. A lot of us will not have any freedoms, and you definitely will not be respected. Now, if you are African American or Black, you already know what time it is. America been treating us greasy. Children of the Corn been treating us greasy. Employers been treating us greasy. With the influx of these migrants, these illegal entrants, and all the privileges and benefits they've been getting, we know what time it is. They've done this before. This ain't nothing new. But a lot of white people are not going to be ready for what's happening to them because they too, especially women, like they're calling what's happening now, white and Black women, all types of women, the Shecession. Because a lot of the women who worked in these fields got these jobs where these hires are now losing their jobs because employers don't have to hire somebody based on race, or they don't have to have a diverse pool of anything. With the striking down of affirmative action, you don't have to do anything for minorities, which includes Black people, but it also includes all these other groups who were lumped into the Civil Rights Act that was meant specifically for African Americans. So African Americans, you already wasn't getting nothing. You still ain't going to get nothing. But you're really not going to be harmed because you were never helped anyway. But all these other groups who benefited from diversity and inclusion, like Black women and African American women, Hispanic women, all these, different groups, the alphabet people, DEI is out of the window. So you can't rely on that anymore. And I want to share these stories with you. So it says diversity and inclusion. Where does DEI go from here? So it says in the summer of 2020, spurred by the Black Lives Matter movement and pandemic inequities, organizations in the United States and the world committed to improving diversity, equity, and inclusion in their ranks. Today, however, amid economic uncertainty, corporate belt tightening, and virulent campaigns to dismantle diversity efforts through both court rulings and legislation, the push for DEI has slowed. DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Now, more than ever, it's time for companies to recommit. They wasn't really committed anyway. It's just good PR ploy. To bring advocates and critics of this work together, leaders must orient around a broader goal, creating the conditions for all workers to flourish. Data on employee engagement underscores this challenge for organizations. Gallup estimates that 77% of employees are unengaged at work and reports that worker stress is at a historic high, costing the global economy $8.8 trillion. Now, I don't understand what any of this has to do with diversity, equity, and inclusion because it don't have anything to do with it, but you could tell whoever wrote this is not necessarily a person of color. Laura Morgan Roberts. Is Laura's white? Oh no, she got a little black face up here, but she sure don't sound like she understands what DEI was originally meant for. So it says union organizing across U.S. industries is highlighting the fact that many workers feel exploited or undervalued. Tens of millions of employees in the U.S. and around the world switched jobs in the Great Resignation, and many others are quiet quitting or burning out. These kinds of trends lead to higher hiring cost and poor performance, specifically diminished creativity and innovation. And there is evidence that those in historically marginalized groups are even less engaged than their dominant group counterparts. In the past, corporate attempts to boost employee well-being have In the past, corporate attempts to boost employee well-being have ranged from ping pong tables to job crafting. But employers need to take a new tack that addresses the root of so many issues facing workers today. My research in the fields of positive psychology and diversity and inclusion leads me to believe that to truly engage each and every employee and to help them feel validated and rewarded, organizations need to cultivate 4 freedoms that allow people to bring their full humanity to work. So y'all see how this stuff is so stupid. We just got a whole country of people who just say anything. Like nobody really wants to address the elephant in the room, which is inequality that is driven by racism. So I don't care how many, essays people write. If you're not willing to address racism, because racism creates the lack of diversity, racism drives inequity, and racism creates exclusion. It is exclusion. So it doesn't matter what all this other stuff, flowery stuff this lady is talking about. And everybody isn't harmed by racism. A lot of people benefit from racism. But because some of these people, and you notice that they love to get our people to push this stuff out on us, because again, Black women have been some of the greatest beneficiaries of DEI quotas. I guess that's the best way to say. Over the past, 10, 15 years, 20 years per se. Now, corporations are rolling that crap back. They don't want these women, and so these women are trying to figure out new hustles. There ain't no hustle. America is going back to what it's always been, and it ain't going to never change. It'll be that until it's destroyed. It's going to be the reason that it is destroyed, because it is an inequitable, unfair, racist institution that refuses to change. It refuses to repent. It refuses to do recompense to the longest held group of people who are captive here, which would be African American Black people. So it doesn't matter how many DEI ploys they come up with. You can't undo 400 years of exclusion and not do recompense and think that there's going to be a next phase and it's going to be okay. Ain't going to be no next phase. This is the end of this experiment. It don't work. So it doesn't matter what they do, but you're going to have these people like this woman who are going to continue to try to sell us on diversity, equity, and inclusion as a minority, as a person who has no power to change anything in the system. We can write about it, we can observe, we can talk about it to make the children of the corn feel good, but ain't nothing going to come of it because they don't want to change. And that is why this whole thing is going to fail. They have been willfully ignorant and they've gone along with this system, and now it's eating them up and they don't know what to do about it. So there is no hope for DEI. And that's why I stopped doing it a long time ago when I saw, hey, what's the point? Because these people don't change. They never change. They're not going to change. They ain't going to change this system. They benefit too much. They'd have to forfeit too much. They'd have to give something. They don't want to give nothing. So for me, it's just, hey, eventually they'll eat their own. And that's what's happening now. So another article from Forbes said, is DEI officially dead? So it says, for the last few years, it seems that the anti-DEI sentiment has gained traction and old habits have indeed been hard to break. The Supreme Court's decision to end affirmative action and strip away alphabet rights has furthered the DEI hate train. The critiques of DEI have been escalating. In 2020, President Code 45 issued a diversity training ban, and almost 3 years later, conservatives are hoping to limit corporate DEI efforts. The chief diversity officer for Virginia recently stated that DEI is dead. Martin D. Brown, who has been serving as Chief Diversity, Opportunity, and Inclusion Officer for Governor Glenn Youngkin since November 2022, made the bold statement in a speech at Virginia Military Institution. In a statement to the Washington Post, Brown asserted, "It's proven that institutions achieve more with a more diverse and inclusive workforce. However, equity has become a trade-off for excellence." So then, what is the future of DEI? When this question was asked to an audience on LinkedIn via a poll, the results garnered some interesting findings. Out of over 500 responses, 40% of respondents felt that the future of DEI is less investments and funding in DEI. 25% of respondents indicated that there will be less focus on race and racism in DEI efforts. 19% of respondents said that what we're seeing now is the end of DEI as we know it, and 16% felt that DEI would stay the same. Several factors point to a shift in the DEI landscape. DEI in higher education is facing repeated attacks. And they note Florida Governor Ron DeSantis becoming one of the more vocal figures in the anti-DEI movement, signing legislation prohibiting public colleges and universities from funding DEI initiatives in the state of Florida. As an anti-DEI legislation tracker from bestcolleges.com revealed that as of June, there were several states who were anti-DEI legislation, where DEI legislation had been introduced or approved, anti-DEI legislation. And those states were Texas, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Louisiana, and Oklahoma. Of course, the South. Of course. This was back in July, so who knows how many now. But it says, according to a February NBC News article, DEI roles also seem to be shrinking. The Seattle Times reported in January that tech layoffs are hitting DEI roles, which are seeing sharp declines. Haiti Mendez is a DEI practitioner that worked for a large tech company until she was laid off in March. Mendez, who is the founder and CEO of Boldly Speaking, LLC, shared that while she thinks corporations are sold on the business case for DEI, she anticipates pushback. I think some organizations might use the current environment as an excuse to be compliant, but otherwise move away from prioritizing DEI initiatives that were never a priority in the first place. And that is how I felt about it. DEI was never a priority for corporations. Their first priority is making money, and they'll do whatever they got to do to draw money. So if you got to say, we got a diversity, equity, and inclusion person, and we do this and put some rainbow faces in commercials and some twirling LGBT people in commercials, flaming, whatever they got to do to make those people, or to appeal to those, segments so that they can get their bag. That's what they're doing. But now they don't have to, so they can go back to doing what they've always done anyways, be racist and exclude certain groups of people from the workforce, from upward mobility, from opportunity. And this is why I've always, DEI is dead, but now it's official with the ending of affirmative action. Corporations don't have to engage in it. Schools are not going to be able to engage in it. And so, as far as I'm concerned, for African American people who this stuff was originally meant to benefit through the Civil Rights Act, we're, I would say, more in danger than we've ever been, because now you have more people who are protected. You don't have any protections. Everybody got specific protections for them except for us. And so if your children are going to school, whether it's, K through 12 or college, they're not protected. We're not protected in the workforce. We ain't protected any place. And so, this nation is going back to the practice of not caring about. They don't even pretend to care. At least when they had these ploys, they were pretending to care. Now they don't have to pretend anymore. And so that's what you're getting ready to see. You're already seeing it. These people, they don't care about you. They don't have to hide it anymore. So that's what's a little concerning. There's one thing I wanted to show. So here it is, where I want to talk about where it comes to anti-racism, because this is something that I used to write about a whole lot, but finally I just gave up, because I was like, it don't matter how much you tell white people about racism, they just are perpetually, intentionally, willfully ignorant. I don't have time for that. It's like talking to little kids who have special needs and need extra help, except for they're really intelligent and they don't really need extra help. They just BS you when they want to BS you. And I'm not saying that in a disrespectful way to anyone who has children with special needs, but anybody at any time can be cunning and manipulative. You see it in little children, even in little babies. They have that thing in them where they can be disobedient and ignore you, or exercise their will against your will, even and do things that they know could harm them just because you don't want them to do it. Dealing with racism is kind of like the same way to me. Like, I don't understand why is it so difficult for white people to get it, but I understand they know and they do get it. They just don't want to relinquish it or change, because it means that they'd have to give up what they have and they don't want to share. So it says anti-racism should be the nucleus of any DEI efforts. A failure to prioritize racial equity in DEI work means that inequities will continue to persist. The result of the divestment from DEI will have a deleterious effects on racial diversity in the workplace. Deprioritizing DEI means the racial disparities will widen. Many of those hardest hit by layoffs, particularly in tech, are Black workers, as well as workers from other marginalized and underrepresented backgrounds. Workplaces that adopt race-neutral policies will hinder their ability to find the best and most competitive talent. So somebody said DEI is absolutely not dead. Share DEI thought partner, Adriel Parker. Yes, we've seen a backlash against the DEI fueled by political agendas, misinterpretations of what DEI even means, and the dismantling of affirmative action. Historically, DEI initiatives have always been first on the chopping block when resources get tight for organizations, especially in today's volatile economy. Despite what should be an obvious need to continue to prioritize DEI, the future may include more cutbacks and less DEI funding. So this to me sounds like somebody who, like I said, this is a thought partner. So somebody who's invested in, they get paid to do this work. So of course they're not going to say it's dead. They're going to keep trying to peddle their products. Though anti-DEI sentiments seem to be rising, DEI is far from over. This is just one of the many metamorphoses that the industry will experience. As Parker explains, DEI can't die as long as there are people. Well, if they're getting ready to get rid of people and use AI and humanoid robots, they ain't gonna need diversity and inclusion because the robots don't have a race. They just, machines. So it's just really interesting listening at these people talk about, just be ignorant about what's actually happening. And it's only because they benefit from it financially. So it says, our diversity is what makes us humans. If we want to coexist peacefully in the shared spaces, DEI is a requirement. Well, you ain't going to be coexisting no place because they're getting ready to get rid of as many people as they can by hook or by crook. So there's that. That's why DEI going away, because they already got their other agenda set up. Folks may want to call it something else, but the core goal, fostering understanding and fairness amongst people, continues to be the same. I don't care what kind of goal they set. Esau and them, children of the corn, cannot be fair. And they ain't going to understand nothing. They don't care to understand. And the people that are being used to be racist and exclude people and be inequitable, they're going to continue to do what they do. And you can see the lack of diversity in all these things that I show you, all these different plans, all these different bodies who are working together to create these global governments, to create all these rules of how they're going to rule over us in this next system. It's not us. So DEI ain't going to work. They've already set up the next inequitable, unfair system. It's just waiting to go live. So if you sitting around thinking that DEI is going to continue to exist and you're going to be able to get rid of racism, you are crazy. But good luck to you. I ain't trying to even concern myself with it anymore. I'm just concerned about my people. I hope they wake up. I hope they are paying attention to what is going on. There are not going to be any more exclusions for Black people or inclusions. I'm sorry, inclusions for Black people. You're going to be excluded even more because now you done invited so many people under the umbrella. You have pushed yourself out. So all those sisters who was like, thinking they got it going on because they were hired and they make more money than the men, that time is coming to an end. A lot of these people are getting ready to lose what they have. They're not needed anymore. Their tokenism is not wanted anymore. They don't have to parade you around. They don't have to have you on their boards. They don't have to have you as DEI consultants and employees for workplaces. They don't need you because they don't have to have you. So sisters who bought into all this DEI stuff, honey, y'all done been played. Find you a new hustle because this is not going to be it. Between AI and robots, y'all know whiteness is going to insulate itself and protect itself and look out for itself. So if any employment opportunities are available, the children of the corn going to get them. You're not going to get them. This is the same old thing they've always done. Right after Reconstruction, since slave codes, Black codes, ain't nothing new. Nothing new. They just used us while they could use us. And now they got what they wanted. They had us distracted. They're going back to what they always do. So just get over it. Accept you've been played And let's move on. Take your respective corners and do your work for your people, because children of the corn ain't gonna never play fair. As far as African American Black people are concerned, so-called Black people, y'all better get off of this affirmative action train and quit talking about diversity, equity, inclusion, and helping all these other groups help themselves to what you should have been entitled to all alone. You done helped yourself yet again out of a place of privilege. When will we ever learn? All right. This is Marley K letting y'all know diversity and equity and inclusion is indeed dead, is dying. May not be completely gone off the rails yet, but it's not going to be around much longer. So with the rise of all this hate, you're going to start seeing people change. You're going to start seeing corporations change. And life is just going to be different for a lot of people, especially those people who have benefited from DEI. If anybody's going to benefit from DEI from now on, it's going to be white women and probably white men. But I anticipate they're going to do away with it altogether, because now they don't have to. That's the law of the land. So find you a new hustle. Talk about something else, because this ain't it. All right, please like this video, share it, and subscribe to the channel if you like this type of content. Hit that bell notification and hit all so that you'll be notified each and every time I upload new content. Follow me on Rumble and Odyssey. Links are in the description. Also follow me on Facebook and Instagram. Those links are in the description as well. In the event that I am taken down off of this platform, I will notify you via those platforms, and I will continue to make content as long as possible on Rumble or Odyssey. Finally, if you'd like to support the channel financially, links are in the description for Venmo and Coffee. I appreciate everything that y'all do. If you've already given, thank you so very much. And you can just understand, a lot of us are putting our necks out here to bring you quality content and different views that are not going to come from the mainstream media. So any support you give us, we greatly appreciate it. Lastly, keep prepping, keep praying, keep seeking the Most High, looking at what's going on in the world. Keep your faith, but you better be doing some work, because these folks are trying to bury us. And those who are not paying attention are going to be destroyed. Don't look for any protections because of the color of your skin or your gender or your sexual orientation or none of that stuff. That stuff is dead. They used it for what they needed to use it for as long as they needed to use it. But their time has come to an end, and now they're going back to their original plans. So get ready, y'all. We have no friends. We have no protections. And there is no such thing as diversity, equity, and inclusion. It was all a ploy. We've been used. They've moved on to the common good. So understand, DEI is done. It's not coming back. And if you got sucked into it, come to grips with it and move on. Don't be trying to beat a dead horse, because this country is not going to look out for you. They are going back to their old ways, and their old ways are racist. That's what they do best. All right, y'all. This is Martha K. Love y'all, and I'm out.